Welcome back. All right, so I'm wearing the hockey garb, but I'm going to upload this to the Entertainment Guy channel because I don't necessarily feel like this is just hockey. I feel like this is a social media thing that a podcast, a Columbus Blue Jackets podcast, and one of the hosts is somebody I know, and I've over the years I've known him. I've never known him to say anything negative, and he didn't say what's got that podcast in trouble. But sometimes offhand remarks can get you in trouble. And so I want to talk about this because it feels like we're in this new era. And I've got it titled as the era of access. Because we have access to celebrities, we have access to sports celebrities as well as entertainment. And you never know. I learned early on. So with my channel, the main channel, it became kind of a growing concern in 2016. And I learned very quickly that people were watching. I learned very quickly that actual hockey players knew who I was. I still remember somebody sending me a video. I believe Frankie Corrado was playing for the Marlies at the time. It sends me a video saying, do you know who the hockey guy is? And Frank going, yep. And, you want to say hi to Shannon. It was something along the lines of him going, yeah, hi, Shannon. And I'm thinking, okay. And that was kind of one of those moments for me where I went, okay, real hockey players are watching my content. And then I started talking about it in videos, and I saw people saying, there are no hockey players watching your content. Why would they watch your videos? I don't know, but they were. And I started to be careful. I started realizing, there's a reach that I have here that I want to make sure that I'm being careful with. I know the jersey supplier I have, not for the custom ones. These are just through like some, I think it's fans' idea, but it's like they're knockoffs of, basically these are just knockoffs. Fanatics level. At any rate, if you're a baseball fan, you know what I'm talking about. And I do kind of want to do a video on this channel based on those baseball fanatics because, oh my God. But seriously, getting back to the topic at hand, we are now in an era where you have to assume people may know what you say. So on this podcast, there's an offhand joke, not a funny one, and not a joke I would make on or off camera, regarding Patrick Laine, that Patrick Laine heard and then sees the video and reposts it saying, this is not okay. And I am sure for people running that podcast, they probably had no idea that Patrick Laine was actually going to hear what was said. Patrick Laine has been in the Players Assistance Program. He has dealt with depression during his life at various times. I know that people will always make jokes. I do my best to go through my comment section and make sure those jokes don't stay on the channel for very long because I don't really find the jokes funny. And I think when somebody's going through depression, they're going through mental health challenges, I don't think people piling on them makes any sense. And so I won't make jokes about what somebody else is going through. So in this era of access and this era where everybody has a podcast, which is why I haven't touched my podcast in ages, because everybody has one now. It's like, all right, so everybody has a podcast. And it seems like everybody has a YouTube channel as well. But I have a foothold on YouTube that I don't necessarily have with podcasts, although it makes 99 cents a month, so take that. But don't assume. If you start your own podcast, you start your own channel, do not assume, and I've got the player here, but anybody, if you're going to talk about somebody in a video, and if you're going to talk about somebody in audio, you're going to upload that to the internet. A, it lives forever. B, the person you're talking about could potentially hear it or see what you said, and so that can be troubling, even if it's just an offhanded comment. You're like, it doesn't matter. How many times have we seen over the last few years somebody freaking out in public and they become famous? Everybody around the world knows who they are just because they had a public freakout. So we are in a completely different era now than we've ever been in. Things that never would have gone viral 20 years ago, now they absolutely do. In part because everybody's carrying their phones around. Everybody's got their phones. So that is part of the problem. And yet there's an easy solution. Act like that person's listening. Act like you're talking to that person. So Like, I'll make offhand comments here and there. Like, obviously, going back on the channel, I've made offhanded comments about Scarlett Johansson or Jennifer Lawrence as my girlfriend because it's ridiculous, it's funny, and it dates back to well before I was actually with my wife and all of that. And it's obviously just a joke. So I don't worry that if I actually met one of these people in real life that they'd be like, "What was it you said about me?" It would just be, "I'm not your girlfriend." Right? Yeah, I know, I'm well aware. So there is definitely, and I wanted to put up here too, off camera versus on camera. And for me, when I'm off camera, I will say things I won't say on camera. So like I talk a lot in on the hockey channel about how I don't report trade rumors. But if you meet me in person and it's just a one-on-one discussion on trade rumors, I'll discuss it and I'll tell you what I think a player might be worth. I'll tell you whether or not I think somebody's having a good season and whether or not they're worth the value that's out there on the market. I will get into that discussion because it's not a public forum. It's not where I have to worry about that necessarily being uploaded and if I talk to somebody like that, it means there's some level of trust there. And to this date, people have accepted that and been cool with it. And that goes to meetups I've had here locally, meetups in California, when we had meetups in Las Vegas. There were definitely times where people would ask me, "What's your honest opinion on?" And they'd ask me a team or a player, and I would give them my honest appraisal. And sometimes it was just a few words, and sometimes it was basically hinting, "Yeah, they're awesome," or "They're terrible." And people are like, "Wow, that's different than," well, because I know that it's just you and I talking, and I'm not on camera, so it's a completely different scenario. And I sometimes think people forget that. And I think in this instance, I'm not defending what was said, but I think in this instance that's part of what it is. You're talking with your friends, you're joshing around, it's no big deal. But you're not, because it's being recorded and it's being uploaded to the internet. So that's something that has to be kept in mind at all times. I don't make light on certain topics, and there's reasons why. I have had friends who've taken their own lives. It is an awful feeling. It is an awful feeling of what more could I have done? Should I have seen the signs? I look back at messages from people. I had a subscriber who that happened with last year, and I immediately went to our conversation history because I was friends with him, and it hurt. It hurt. And so I'm not going to make light of somebody going through depression, going through needing mental health help. I'm not going to do that because I know that what might be a thought today could be an action tomorrow, and I hope they get the help they need. I'm not going to make fun. I also don't make light of alcohol. I don't make light of drugs because I've known way too many people whose lives have been ruined by that. It's not something I can make light of. I can make light of various things in the world, but I can't make light of that. I don't find it funny. I absolutely don't find it funny. I think that there are a lot of people whose lives have been ruined, and partly because people will just ridicule them. They don't want to come out and admit it. If you are a person who has a drug problem, and if you're a celebrity or you're a sports star, can you come out and say it without people rubbing your nose in it for the next 20 years? And I can't imagine people in real life going through that, where no matter where they would go, somebody would pop up going, "Hey, remember when you had that problem? Remember? Wasn't that funny? Wasn't that funny?" And it's not. It's not funny to them. It's likely not funny to people in their life, whether it's friends, family. So I can't make light of these topics. I don't, and that's it. Doesn't matter if it's on camera or off camera. I cannot make light of those topics because I know how tough that can be. Like I've seen people joking about, "Oh, players who have video game addiction." No, video game addiction's real. That's a real thing, and it feels like with how video games now are open world and you've got the microtransactions, and they're geared towards being addicting. They are geared towards that. It will take away months, years of your life trying to be the absolute best at something, or just trying to have the absolute greatest experience you can have playing a game. And so I don't make fun of that either, and I don't understand why people think it's really funny to have somebody destroy their life through addiction. It's to me not funny. And then the last one I wanted to mention as well, I want to talk a bit about free speech. Free speech is the thing. Now I'm in Canada, so it's freedom of expression. Now, what freedom of speech entails is government censorship. So if you are thrown in jail for something that you said, just for something that you said in the States, That's violating your rights to say things. And the reality is that if somebody says something dumb online, somebody says something dumb in this case in a podcast, we're allowed to call them out on it. I am allowed to, um, I might be a really big fan of a show, and then the actor or actress on that show says something really ugly and vile publicly and say, I'm not watching that anymore, I'm done. And publicly say, I'm done. It doesn't mean that there's been some violation of speech. It just means that I, as somebody who watches TV, somebody who, watches sports and whatnot, I may turn around and say, I can't support this entity, whether it's a TV show, maybe it's a network, maybe it's a league, whatever it is, because of something that I didn't like. And again, that's my right as a consumer. Consumers have every right to do that. It has no violation of free speech at all. Free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. You can say whatever you want, but people have the right to be angry. People have the right to be offended, and basically say whatever they want to say in return as well. That's where the freedom is sort of both ways with that. And so in this case, you say something in a podcast that offends people, and you're leaving yourself kind of behind the eight ball there, because they do have a right to get upset and to get mad. There have definitely been times on the main channel as well as on this one where I've said something that people have got mad about. It's kind of common, it's kind of normal, and I've never once said that my speech is being infringed or anything. That's fine. If somebody doesn't agree with my take on something, all right. And it doesn't mean that I'm my speech is being attacked. At any rate, that's where this is at. I do sometimes wonder, like, and I've talked to my wife about this, but like I don't know where society's headed in general. It's a whole discussion to have another time, I guess. But it definitely feels like the access that we have now, whether it's with celebrities or in the case of my main channel, sports. I know hockey players watch my videos. I know coaches, GMs. I know broadcasters. I know people watch my videos, and so I'm careful. I'm very careful about what I say and what I do. But again, not everybody has to be that way. If somebody else will be like, you know what? I don't care if they hear what I have to say. I think the guy's a jerk. Okay, fine. But if it gets out there and if that player reposts it and argues with you, and then you have all of that player's fans coming after you, that's something that absolutely can happen and can quickly change not necessarily an opinion, but how you convey information. So I just think it's important, whether you've got a podcast that's followed by 10 people or 1,000 people, whether you've got a YouTube channel that's viewed by 100 people or 10,000 or 100,000 people. I think it's important to do that the whole way through the same way. Assume that the person that you're talking about could see that video. Assume the person you're talking about could hear what you said, and just keep that in mind when you're doing videos. I've done that to the best of my ability for years now, where I've said, okay, I have to be really wary of things and watch. And sometimes I'll be doing a video. I'll get, sometimes I'm 15, 20 minutes into a video, and I'll say something and realize what I just said could be misconstrued, or what I just said, I can't say that, so I stop the video and start over. So that's one thing you can't do with something live, right? Which is why I don't do like live videos, because I can't just say, I'll start this live stream again in a minute. I don't like that take. Takes out there, videos forever. So at any rate, there you go. But thank you guys so much for all your support. I do like to do videos like this, in part because I want to, encourage people who are thinking about getting into the creative space. Do that, but always be aware. Always be aware that anything you say, it's going to end up in the court of public opinion, potentially, and it could very well end up being seen by the person you're talking about. So, yeah, it's part of the reason why on the main channel too, I have the goofing around with Gary Bettman, and I have the Bet phone. And I do, on some level, I think in the back of my mind, like, does Gary see these? Like, would Gary find this funny? Or would he just be like glaring at the screen and be like, how do we take this guy down? Like, I don't know. But at any rate, that's the thing. Those are lighthearted videos that I know darn tootin' well that if I met Bill Daly or Gary Bettman, I might be able to have a joke with them. I might get kind of a nasty side eye from them, but I've never said anything in those videos that I feel like they would take as being like really offensive or really, really awful. So I do enjoy doing those videos. I am due to make another one soon as well. There are some topics I can definitely discuss with Gary Bettman on a phone call that, again, I know nobody would take seriously. So, all right. And of course, originally there was the Gary Bettman's Behind It All video. Nobody would have looked at that and said, he's serious. He really means that. There were a couple that didn't know that video was a joke at the time, but that kind of makes it funnier. And again, there aren't clips from that I would worry about. But thank you guys so much for all your support. I hope this advice works for people. I do. Because again, I think that, it's fine. You want to make inappropriate jokes and all that. Great. You can do that. But if you're doing it in a public sphere, people are going to hear and see potentially what's been said. So just one thing to keep in mind. Thank you guys for your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I almost said don't hit like and subscribe, but don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you again soon.